You know the vibes. PVO, positive vibes only. FOE, family over everything. High vibrations. Hope everybody's staying positive, shooting all negativity down, staying focused, staying balanced, staying healthy, staying clear minded, focusing on yourself, protecting your energy, and mastering self. Man, there's a lot going on. I'm not even gonna lie, whole lot going on. I came across this interesting article that I wanted to share with you all. I'm gonna leave a link in the description if you're interested. Maryland Health Department procurement chief fired in midst of Korean test kit controversy. The former head of procurement for the Maryland Department of Health said he was forced into retirement without explanation, months after refusing an unusual late night request to send millions of dollars to a South Korean COVID-19 test kit manufacturer. He also raised concerns about whether the state followed best practices in its rush to acquire the test late spring. In an interview with Maryland Matters, Dana Lee Denbrow, a former member of the House of Delegates, said he was forced to resign by the Secretary Robert R. Neal on November 23rd, just 1 week before Neal himself retired. The Maryland Department of Health is disputing several key elements of Denbrow's account. Denbrow said he was shocked and disappointed to be forced out after more than 4 years in the post, and asserted that stepping down in the middle of the pandemic was the furthest thing on his mind. He said he was summoned into a conference room and told that if he didn't agree to retire, his departure would be recorded as a termination, potentially hurting future job opportunities. Denbrow's firing is the latest development in the saga over COVID-19 test kits the state of Maryland purchased from a South Korean company, during the spring, when the coronavirus was still relatively new and states were scrambling to respond to the public health crisis, while Governor Lawrence J. Hogan Jr., a Republican, announced the procurement of the Korean test kits with great fanfare in mid-April. The Washington Post reported last month, 3 days before Denbrow's termination, that the test kits were flawed and never used. No reason was given for the decision to fire him, Denbrow told Maryland Matters. I know he made a mistake here, but so what? Everybody has made mistakes from time to time, he said. I respect his judgment on whosoever. I respect his judgment or whoever judgment it was. I took it very professionally, and just that's the way it is. Denbrow, 67 years old, said his dismissal came 7 months after a surprise late night phone call from an aide to then Deputy Health Secretary Francis B. Phillips. The aide told Denbrow to approve an immediate $6 million payment to a South Korean firm, a request the veteran procurement officer refused. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not how it works, he recalled. I must have explained to them how to initiate a procurement, that we don't pay in advance, that a company needs to be vetted, or else we could get ripped off in a scam. That specifications have to be written up, and there has to be an assurance of a delivery date and compliance with the specifications, that sort of thing. Basic procurement understanding. Denbrow called the demand for the instant payment strange and fishy, but he said he chalked it up to inexperience. I think the aide was just mistaken about what he should be doing, and somebody must have told him the governor wants this order placed right away, because that's what was relayed to me, because that's what was relayed to me. And I said, that's not how it works. I don't think there was any bad faith involved or any corruption, Denbrow added. I just think they didn't know what to do. You just don't do procurement like that. And I think everybody should know that. But some people don't. Denbrow wouldn't identify the aide. Denbrow wouldn't identify the aide. He said he didn't recognize the name of the firm to whom the payment was to be made. In a statement, the Maryland Department of Health took issue with parts of Denbrow's account. According to the agency, two officials were on the call with the former procurement chief, and that no specific funding amount was or could have been discussed, nor was Mr. Denbrow given any kind of specific instruction, order, or demand that he do something. The conversation referenced was a general discussion to understand the procedure for a potential emergency procurement, the statement added. The agency said the emergency procurement of lab genomics I'm sorry, family. The agency said the emergency procurement of lab genomics kits capable of performing 500,000 tests was carried out properly under the emergency procurement process, and were a commodities procurement made and approved under the Department of General Services Office of State Procurement. The purchase was approved by the State Board of Public Works on September 2nd as a part of the standard emergency procurement process. Told of the agency's response, Denbrow insisted his recollection was correct. They asked for me immediately to transfer substantial funds to a firm in South Korea to facilitate. I'm sorry, family. To facilitate a purchase transaction, and I declined to do so, he said in a text. In the interview, Denbrow said that about 3 weeks after the late night springtime phone call, Hogan popped up in news reports on April 18th welcoming a plane load of lab genomics corona test kits at Thurgood Marshall BWI Airport. Denbrow said he assumed the payment. Denbrow said he assumed the payment requested had been approved by someone else in state government. Asked if he thinks his dismissal was related to his refusal to approve the $6 million payment, Denbrow would only say, "I have thought about that a lot." A former member of the Maryland Board of Contract Appeals for a decade and an expert in procurement, Denbrow acknowledged he is a stickler for detail. "I'm not a yes man. If you want me at a meeting, I'm not there just to kiss your ass or tell you everything you're doing is right," he said. I'm going to ask some tough questions. I'm going to even play devil's advocate and say, "Haven't you heard about this or haven't you heard about that?" That was his style. I'm sorry, that was my style. And I think it was very useful to the Department of Health. I wouldn't just say, "Okay, you want me to send a check to somebody for $5 million. Here's the check." State pays for replacement test kits. The Hogan administration has drawn criticism for its decision to pay additional $2.5 million to lab genomics for replacement test kits when the first batch, in the words of Acting Health Secretary Dennis R. Schrader, turned out to be clunky. The initial batch of 500,000 tests cost $9.46 million. Denbrow told Maryland Matters he recommended that the first batch of kits be sent to the Maryland Laboratories Administration for a reliability check. I thought before you go through the whole ordeal of the logistical distribution of these things and getting them in place, let's make sure they work right, which is sort of an obvious thing to do. Do they comply with specs or do they work? Are they reliable? He said. The response I got was, "Don't ask questions." So this is clearly somebody that, has some discrepancy, has some uncertainty about things that was going on. And he was told to basically shut up and don't ask questions. In its statement to Maryland Matters, the agency said no senior MDH official ever said this. If you can provide us with who is alleged to have said it, we can look into the accuracy of this statement as well. Denbrow said that if he had handled the initial purchase, the state would not have had to make the second payment. There would have been definite specifications that would have included FDA requirements, and a vendor who got that work to place that order would have had to agree to comply with those specifications. And if they provided a product that did not comply, we would not pay for it, period. The agency rejected this claim, saying Mr. Denbrow had no involvement with or knowledge of this procurement. The agency said I'm sorry, family. Bear with me for 1 second. The agency said that as of Friday, 453,129 lab genomic genomics genomics tests have been utilized as a part of states' response to the COVID-19. Because of the lack of a coordinated federal response to COVID-19, Maryland and other states were beset in the early months of the pandemic by a frenzied search for ventilators, PPE, and tests. And Denbrow said he is sympathetic about the very difficult situation state lenders face. He and Neil are both former legislators. During his 16 years in the House of Delegates from 1987 to 2003, Denbrow was a lightning rod for controversy. While considered whip smart and hardworking, he clashed with colleagues and often infuriated legislative leaders. But after losing a re-election bid in 2002, after being arrested for striking his wife, charges were later dropped. Denbrow largely faded from public view and spent a decade and a half in low profile, though important government positions. Denbrow stressed that he continues to admire Neil and still considers him a friend. It was a life or death situation, and we needed to move quickly, he said. Other states were jumping in front of us, so I don't want to question what was done, but I was shocked to learn only this week that apparently we spent all this extra money. I don't know if that was justified or not. So that was just an interesting article I wanted to share with you all, as far as, what's going on with this whole, and I just thought that was real profound, as far as how Maryland is like the forefront of a lot of things. We're gonna get into that in another video. But they really rolling this shit out, man. They firing people that's speaking up, saying things. Like, they really not playing with this vaccine, man. It's, man, love y'all, man. Y'all just stay blessed, stay focused, stay strong, stay positive, protect your energy, master yourself, and have no fear.